Hello. My name is Leilani, and my favorite number is 5. My favorite direction is left, and my favorite parable is the prodigal son. So in Luke chapter 15, verse 11, it states, Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided the property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there he squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. 'Your brother has come,' he replied, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound.' The older brother became so angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaying for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him.' 'My son,' the father said, 'you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.'" Those are the words of God. So, how many of you can see yourself in some part of this story? Have you seen yourself as the son who all he wanted, what was due to him, what was owed to him, and just wanted to go out and become their own person? And then maybe things didn't go the way you wanted them to, and you had to come back with your tail between your legs. How many of you see yourself as the father? Loving somebody so much that you give everything that you have, even when it hurts. How many of you see yourself as a brother who sees something happen for somebody else and you don't understand why everybody is so excited for them? Because it just doesn't seem fair because you do all the right things and that person's a screw up and people are happy to see them succeed. How many of yourself see yourself as the servant, the worker who goes and prepares things and is the helper? I think I've seen myself in every single part. The reason why I love the story of the prodigal son so much is because it speaks to me of God's unwavering and unconditional love. When I was a very young child, my biological father was not in my life. He chose to move elsewhere And my mom raised my sisters and I by herself for a long time. And I grew up really angry. I grew up really sad. And I made a lot of decisions I probably wouldn't have, I think, if I would have had a strong father figure in the home. And I thought a lot about what I would do if I ever saw my father again. When I got old enough to search online, and this is way before some of your time, because some of you grew up with, the internet right there at your fingertips. But I remember when we got a computer in our home, and I was able to do my own internet searches. And one of the things I searched for was my father. I had a loving dad by that time, but there was part of me where something was missing, and I wanted to find him. And I searched, and I didn't know what I would do if I ever found him. Would I be angry and take out all of my aggression? I had some fantasies of hitting him really hard. Would I collapse and cry? Would I ask him why he left? Would I blame everything on him? I was just a little girl who wanted her dad. But I was really angry. And one day, that was a lot of years. I was around 9 the last time I saw him. So, one day I walked in through those doors. And at that time, Pastor Brandon was our youth pastor. And we played a lot of music before church started on the screen. And there was a song playing. I don't know if I had heard it before or not. It's called I'll Take You Back by Jeremy Camp. And it's about the prodigal son. And the video goes on, and it shows this father and the son fighting, and he, gets upset, and he leaves, and he takes him back. And it just hit me really hard. I view all of my sins, big and small, as the nails that nailed Jesus to the cross. Every big thing and little thing, because I feel like Jesus doesn't weight things. He doesn't weight sins. Like a sin is a sin. If he made a commandment and you broke it, that's a sin. Every little thing that I've done and continue to do, because I'm a sinful person, everything Jesus forgives me for. Is when you repent and you ask for forgiveness and you're truly repentant, he forgives you for that, right? And I feel like every single little thing I've done that has nailed him to the cross, he's forgiven me for. And I feel awfully unworthy, but awfully grateful for that. And I felt like if Jesus could forgive me for my sins and love me unconditionally, what, baby? Then I could forgive my dad. Daddy's right there. Then I could forgive my dad.
Mom, will you give me up?
Yeah. So I did. And I wasn't angry anymore. And it just was like flipping a switch. I've never been able to forgive somebody like that before.
Mom, first I'm talking.
No, Mom's talking. You need to go see Daddy.
No.
So I did. And I made the decision that I was going to forgive him, and I wasn't angry anymore. And then when I was 29, somebody reached out to me and told me they found my dad. And he was in South Carolina, and he had colon cancer. He was in his second bout with cancer. And they didn't know a lot about where he was, or they had a phone number. I reached out. He didn't respond. All they knew is he had an appointment scheduled for a certain time at a certain location in South Carolina. And so I talked to my employers after praying and crying and stressing out about it, and I decided I was going to make the trip. I was going to go see him. I didn't know how he was going to react. I didn't know if he would welcome me into his arms. I didn't know if he would push me away. All I know is the last time I was in communication with him, he rejected me. And I was a scared girl again. So I drove to South Carolina and I got stuck in a tunnel. It was the first time that they had snow there in forever, and it shut down traffic. And then I thought I was going to be late and I was going to miss out on my opportunity. Traffic got going, and I got to the hospital with a little bit of time to spare. I walked in through the dark. It was one of those creepy ones where the lights turn on when you walk through the hallway, and it's early in the morning, so I walked through there, and I asked the receptionist if James Aker had been there yet, and because of privacy rules, they can't tell me. And she said, well, I can tell you that if he has been here or is here, he'll be in that room. I said, okay. So I went in and I sat down, and nobody was in there, and I waited. And eventually, I saw this old man walk in the door. When I was 9 years old, he was he wasn't big. He was Japanese, he's a short guy. But to me, he was big because I was little. And when I was younger, he was this muscular, buff Japanese biker guy with this glorious Fu Manchu and this beautiful black hair that was so dark that it looked blue in the sunlight. And I just saw this weak man walk in the door with another man holding his arm, helping him walk in the room. And his hair was black and silver. It was scraggly, but it was him. And he sat down. I was looking over at him. I didn't know what to say. And I smiled over at him, and I said, good morning. And he said, good morning. And I asked him, so you come here often? And he said, well, often enough that they know me by name. And I said, well, do they call you Jim or did they call you Hop Sing? Because that was his nickname when he used to live around here. And his eyes got huge. And he said, are you Leilani? And I said, yep. And he just started bawling. And I got up and I walked over to him and I gave him a really big hug. And he started apologizing. And I said, I didn't come here for an apology. I stopped him. It wasn't that I was trying to be rude or I didn't want to hear it, but I didn't need to hear it. I didn't need that anymore. I told him that I forgave him a long time ago and that I was here now and I had a family and I was willing to let him be a part of our family. And he just didn't understand. So through that trip, I was able to reconnect him with other siblings of mine, one that I had never met before. I had a 16-year-old brother, and I called my other sister who lived in Florida, and she drove up. He was afraid, and he didn't want to talk to them because he was afraid that they would be upset with him, and I said, well, as cold as this sounds, you're living on borrowed time. He had terminal cancer. It was the second time. There was no hope for him. It was more keeping him comfortable at that point. And I said, every second you waste, you're losing. So if they're mad, they're mad. But you're not going to know unless you reach out your hand. So we did, and we got together. And over the time that I got to spend with him, during that trip and the next trip I went up, I was able to talk to him about the reason why I was able to forgive him so easily. And I was able to share with him my love of Christ and what God's done for me. And through that, he was able to reach out to his own father which was really difficult for him because his father was an abusive man. There was a lot of healing that was done, and I don't feel like it would have been possible without Jesus, obviously. The example that he's given us in these parables that we hear. My dad gave me the best gift that any parent could give their child. I got less than a year with him. Before he passed, he let me know that through the chaplain that was at the hospice facility that he was in later, he was saved and that he was going to heaven. So when he passed, I was very sad, like medicated depression sad. But I didn't feel gypped. I missed out on 20 years with my dad, and he died at the age of 55. I lost a lot of time with him, but I know I'm going to see him again. So, I see myself as father. I got to, even though I was the one that made the trek, I got to see my father at the end of that long road. And I could hear him trying to apologize and make those excuses. And I asked for the fattened cow to be prepared and a feast to be made. I invited my siblings. And we celebrated his life. And I am so grateful for it. I am so grateful for the example of the prodigal son. I'm so grateful for what Jesus has given us, because I don't know where I'd be without it. So, sorry. That's it for my story. I'm sure you've all been wondering what this fire bowl is doing setting over here. Today we're going to burn the palms that we used a year ago on Palm Sunday to prepare for our Ash Wednesday service. But we're going to do it a little differently. As Pastor Brandon prepares the bowl, he is also going to set up a table with the palms and ink pads. We are going to ask each of you to go to the table to pick up a palm leaf, name it, and claim it with the things in your life that are standing in your way of having a full and healthy relationship with the Father. Once you have done that, we are asking that you place your fingerprint on the palm. For some, it may be one fingerprint. For others, it might be several, and that's okay. Once you have done that, then we ask that you bring them to the fire bowl and place them in the fire to burn. It's at that moment that...
Mom, I'm talking right now. Hi, babe.
It's at that moment when we have to let go of what hinders our relationship. Then when we come for Ash Wednesday, Thursday service, Pastor Brandon will place on our forehead the ashes as a reminder to us of the things we let go of. All of this is in preparation of the season of Lent and expressing of ourselves the reminder of what he did for us and what we choose to do for him.
Well, as Leilani shared, first of all, thank you very much for sharing that. That was amazing. But yeah, feel free to come up as you